Hello, time for another video, and in this one I will talk about the number one reason people have to call a solar inverter or lithium-ion battery manufacturer, and I'm going to show you one way that I got around that. Let's go. So just like in any relationship or marriage, the number one reason that a service call is made to an inverter or battery manufacturer is because of bad communication. And so what do we mean by communication? That encompasses a lot of different things, right? So I have my SMA Sunny Boy 5000 TL-41 inverter here on my wall, and it has a communication setup so that it can talk to my router, and then the router will send all the production data from the inverter to the cloud so I can look at it on my iPhone or on a portal. Almost every inverter manufacturer, battery manufacturer, module level power electronic manufacturer has some type of communication. And the number one reason, like I said, that somebody has to call support is because of a breakdown in the communication. And the reason that this issue comes to light is because the person looks at the phone, and particularly homeowners, and they see a gap in data like on their PV curve. Now, a lot of these companies also use a communication as a two-way method to alert the end user that something has happened. And the alerts vary. They can be as easy as, hey, you got an arc fault, or maybe something even more sophisticated like, hey, we see on this 60 kilowatt inverter that string number 5 is showing a lower current than everybody else. That's called string monitoring. Yep, location change. Couldn't handle the dog bark anymore, so I'm in here freezing my butt off in my garage. But getting back to the communication, I totally understand the value in the communication products, right? Like there's a lot of value in knowing what's going on with your system in both solar and if you have an energy storage system. Like for example, being able to look at a 24-hour period like this and being able to see exactly when the refrigerator kicks on has some value in it, right? Like for example, a refrigerator is probably kicking on once or twice an hour for 5 minutes maybe. But if you look and you see spikes that are coming on 4, 5, 6 times an hour and they're running for 10 minutes at a time, like there's something going on there, right? So that can help you figure out what you need to do. Probably need to get a better refrigerator, or somebody keeps leaving the damn door open all the time. Yeah, who knows? All right, so getting back to the communication issues. So there's a lot of different issues with communicating. There's a lot of different communication devices around, right? So like the inverters are communicating with their portal, right? You've got the batteries. If you have an energy storage system, the batteries are talking to the battery inverter or the hybrid inverter. If you have module level components, those things are talking to the inverter wirelessly, power line communication, whatever method they use, right? So there's a lot of different components going on here, a lot of different types of communication, right? There's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, and of course the most reliable of all communication methods is just Ethernet, a hardwired Ethernet cable. And I tell you, most people could prevent a call to service if they just used a hardwired Ethernet. Okay, that's a fact. That is undeniable. You cannot question that. The overwhelming majority of people don't use Ethernet cable because it's a pain in the ass to run, right? Like for example, my router, I'm here in my garage, my router is probably 40, 50 feet as the crow flies, going through garage wall, laundry room wall, living room wall, to the back wall of my router, where my router is on my desk, right? That's a lot of Ethernet wire to run up and down or hide in baseboards. I wasn't going to do that. So I was using wireless, and I was having no issues at all. And then my installer, Capital City Solar, right outside Sacramento, sent me an email and said, hey, Greg, we're not getting any updates from your system. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I thought, what's going on? Oh, I got a new router. And so I got to pair the new router with the inverter. And I slept since they called, so I totally forgot about it. right? And it went on, I don't know how long it went before they emailed me again. They're probably like, well, Greg's been doing this a long time. He knows what's going on. We'll just send him a courtesy call. Well, they sent me another one. I don't know how much time went by, but they're like, hey, man, like, we're not getting anything. Everything okay? It's like, oh, shoot. Okay, so packed everything up, got my laptop, and went out there to repair the inverter to the router, right? And I had my Mac, my MacBook Air, and went online, got the SMA manual, and a little frustrating because the way they write their manuals, like, you have to be a networking expert. You have to have a degree in freaking networking to understand what they're talking about. They just can't use plain language, right? I got a WAP, WPA password. It's like, dude, just fucking tell me what I need to do and stop using the gobbledygook. Now, I was getting frustrated because I worked for SMA. I knew how to do this on my own inverter because I was teaching people. It has been a while, so I got the manual out, reading through it. Oh yeah, here we go. And it wasn't working. I could not connect. And I had an RTFM moment. I actually called their service line. Hey, this is what's going on. The guy, very helpful, going through, and I made some flippant comment about, man, I've never had this issue with my Mac before. And he goes, oh, you're using iOS? Yeah. Yeah, we don't support that. And so I was even more flustered because when I left SMA in 2015, they still didn't support iOS. So here we are, all this time later, they still don't support it. And I'm like, are you kidding me with this? And he's like, yeah, dude, you're gonna have to find somebody with a PC laptop, with a Wi-Fi card in it, or if you have a desktop with a Wi-Fi card. Nope. Didn't have any of it. Nothing, right? We're all Mac. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Thanked him, and that was it. And I was like, this is some bullshit. And I went back, got my hard copy manual, looked in there. Sure enough, in bold letters, we are not compatible with iOS. Okay, so that's on me. That's a RTFM moment. But come on, SMA, like, really? Just make it compatible. Come on, man. Let's go. And this could very well happen to you. Maybe not. Maybe I'm making more of an issue out of this than need be. But since I didn't want to run the Ethernet all the way from my living room in here, try to hide it around, I used a Wi-Fi extender. Now, we're a gaming family. When I had all my kids here, everybody had to have one of these in their room because, oh, Dad, the lag. Oh, I'm getting, their KD was the most important thing in their life, right? So I had two of these because when they start moving out, you start getting their stuff, right? And so they work really well, right? Like, if they can work and keep a strong connection for a gamer, then an inverter is going to be a piece of cake. Okay? So this is what I got. And you can see here, there's not much to it. You have a base that you install right next to the router, and you can either connect to the router via Wi-Fi. I did not do that. I connected it hardwired, so I didn't want to hear my kids bitch about anything. So I connected this base unit directly to my router. Now, you plug that into a receptacle as close as you can to the router, and then the receiver goes next to whatever device you're going to use to plug into it, whether it be a PS4 or an inverter. So let me show you what I did with my system. So here's the top of my nerdy desk, and all the way over here is my router. And so that is directly plugged in down here, right back in there to the PLC adapter. Okay, so right here, just above my workbench to the right, there is my PLC adapter. Whoop, right there. Right at the top. Got 3 lights on it. You can see the Ethernet coming out. You can see the part of it that's sticking out because I had to coil up. I think it was 100 feet of this stuff that I just had. And I just coil it up right there behind this shelf. And I run it up the top here. All right, so you can see where it comes out the vent. I zip tied it to the conduit that runs this way, all the way down to the inverter. And then that wire goes underneath the inverter into the communication terminal on the inside. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is open up the bottom wiring box area of this inverter, and you'll need a special tip. This is a T25. I'll put a link in the description. I just call it a star head. It's not Phillips. It has a little star pattern on there. I use the T series things for a lot of stuff. Gaming controllers to open them up. They're very small. So I will tell you, be very careful if you do that. I don't recommend people doing this, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But if you open this thing up, you see all these red stickers there? They're there for a reason. Okay, that's because the electricity here on the inside of this inverter will fucking kill you, and it will hurt the entire time that you're dying and frying and doing the 60 hertz shuffle. Okay, so be very careful. Only do this under extreme caution. Okay, so I'm going to take off these screws here. Now, you need to know this when you're taking off a cover, that if there's a display on there, there's probably a ribbon cable that's attached to the back of this. Okay, so you don't want to just pull this thing off because you may damage that. Okay, so here we go. And these are self-retaining, so don't yank them out. You can hear the gasket cracking there. Come on, there we go. That's what it looks like on the inside. See, so that popped right out, just like I told you not to do. And for this one, it takes a minute for the front screen to come back on. So more concerned about making the damn video than being careful with the equipment. But it didn't do anything. The pins are still straight, so no harm. Just be careful, okay? All right, so now let's take a look at where that black Ethernet wire connects to inside the inverter. Okay, so here we are with a close-up of the wiring box. Probably can't see it, but there's some green lights there. I don't know if you can hear this, but the inverter has this really low hum. Really low. That means it's working, it's inverting. And just to give you kind of a little tour of what's going on here, we have black, white, and red. These are line 1, line 2, and the neutral wire. This goes to my breaker on my main panel. Then over here, you can see I have 2 strings. Okay, I have 2 positives and 2 negatives, each going to their own terminal up here. So like I said, be very careful with this. Here's the ribbon cable that goes to the LED on the front. And then right here is where the Ethernet cable, which I have coming up from the bottom through this little watertight gasket thing, and plugged into here. And once I connected that, it was really easy to get this thing to show up on the portal. You just follow the instructions they have for Ethernet. It's super easy. You just on the front of the cover, when you tap on it, it goes through different screens. Okay, and you get to the one that has the IP address of the inverter, and it shows it, and that's an IP address that my router gave it. And so I wrote that down, went into my desktop, opened up Chrome, typed in the IP address, boom, I was right in. It was that easy. Okay, and every manufacturer has kind of the same way to connect to the router, wherever it is. Okay, but the one thing you really have to make sure is that if you are using Wi-Fi, you better have a strong Wi-Fi signal out here. I see that a lot, and it's a particularly bad problem on day of commissioning. Okay, so like the installer has his phone, he has to connect to the internet, but he can't because there's not a very strong signal out here. Some manufacturers require 24/7 connection to the internet, and that's in the warranty. Some manufacturers get around that by having a cell card in there as a backup for data. Everybody has a little bit different way of doing it, but they all kind of use the same methods, if that makes sense. So if you do have a communication issue, there's always a couple things that you can do. Okay, you can make sure that the inverter is connected to the router by going to the browser and typing in the IP address, looking at it on the Wi-Fi list. Like, there's all kinds of things, and the inverter manufacturer manuals are pretty good at that, okay, at explaining this, because they know that the number one reason you're probably calling, whether you're a homeowner, an installer, whatever, is because of a communication issue. Now, there are people who will absolutely look at their inverter or energy storage system data multiple times a day, right? There are just people that are like that. They spent, $20, $30, $40,000. They want to make sure they're getting every watt hour they can after their system. Hey man, I get it. Like, I do. And for the overwhelming majority of people, and you can always break things down into 80-20, 80% of people will probably do that for the first couple of months, right? And they're showing it off. They, check it out, man. Look at my app, see what's going on. And they're showing their friends, you've got an energy storage system, and you're looking at load data. And say, hey, look, check it out, man. That's when my refrigerator comes on. Cool to you, probably boring to everybody else. Ask me how I know. But after a couple of months, like with most things, it kind of wanes after a while, right? For most people. And so they aren't looking at their app to see what's going on anymore. What they do is they look at something else to see if their system is working. Did anybody know what they're looking at? Their utility bill. That's when they know something is going on with their inverter. The first time their utility bill jumps up by $40, $50, $60, $150, then they freak out, then they call the installer. So thank you for watching and for sticking it out this long. I know this was kind of a long one, but a very important one. If there's other things that you want me to talk about, something in the industry that's been gnawing at you that you just need to get some info on, I'll be happy to talk about it. Hell, I'll talk about anything. Thank you again. Take care.